Welcome back to Just Call Jenna. Today I'm talking about awareness. Awareness is such an important thing to the brain. The brain has a filter in it called the reticular activating system. That's a mouthful, so I just say the RAS because I'm a banker. I like to make things short. Acronyms are great. So what does that really mean? There's a couple of things to understand it. Your brain will filter in what you ask it for. Your subconscious that you don't see has so much information coming at it. Your brain would explode if you had to process every bit of information going into it. So your conscious mind can only take so much. And so your subconscious will filter it through the reticular activating system so that what you see is what you get. At the base of your brain stem, it's a big filter. Psychologists refer to it as the attentional filter. Notice some things and filter others out. I figure the best way to explain this to you without the science is the stories. So there's a story about the invisible gorilla. It's a 60-second video where they brought in some people and said, hey, count how many times the people in the white shirt passed the ball. There were players in white shirts and black shirts. Well, almost everybody counted the exact right amount of passes, but about halfway through the video, for about 10 seconds, somebody comes out in a 6-foot-tall gorilla suit, pounds on their chest, walks off screen. The shocking thing is most people didn't even notice the gorilla. In fact, about 25% of them were like, that's crazy, never happened. Literally, your brain will filter in what you want it to do. The attentional focus of focusing on the passes made their brains completely filter out the invisible gorilla. It's a psychological study. If you want more details, go find it online. It's a fabulous way to understand how the brain works. There's another story about what they call the red car study. So they ask people, hey, you're going to go buy a red car. Go find a red car. Well, everybody started noticing red cars everywhere they went. It was incredible how many red cars there are. Well, guess what? All the red cars were there before. Your brain just filtered them out. Let's talk about another story of what I call the two travelers. So 2 travelers went walking through the woods. They walked the same path, walked together. At the end, they asked him, how was it? One says, oh, it was horrible, dark, dreary. There were bugs, whatever. The other one was like, oh, it was so beautiful. Sunlight, the woods, nature, all of that. Well, they both walked the same path. The reason their experience was different? What they noticed. What did they tell themselves to filter? So the one thought it was bad and his brain showed him all the reasons why things are bad. Why was it dreary? Why was it unpleasant? Why was this not preferred? The other decided that it was beautiful, magical, and wonderful. And so the experience was more beautiful, magical, wonderful. Why? Because he told his brain, this is great, and his brain filtered in more of what was great. So when you think about that, it's what you're allowing yourself to filter in. I know for sure you will not look back in life and regret time spent doing what you enjoy. So why wouldn't you tell your RAS to filter in more of what you enjoy? Oh, my life is great. Yeah, your life's going to be great. Your brain is going to look for all the reasons it's great. Oh, my time is miserable. Yeah, your brain's going to find all these reasons to be miserable. The easiest way to increase happiness is to control your time. Find time to do more of what you love. Let more of what you love in. Train your brain. Remember that cognitive ease. Train your brain that it's easy to feel good. So the reticular activating system is your filter. How are you going to notice? 5 minutes a day and looking for your awareness is actually a gift. Be aware of what's going on in your world. So I always think about, I'm a kid from Gen X. I grew up with G.I. Joe, and the famous line from G.I. Joe is, knowing is half the battle. So if you know, that's half the battle of noticing. Let your RAS filter in what you want. Look for what you're noticing. Decide. Let's go back to healing from a stroke. I did not worry about getting to the end of the block. It was every day I'm getting better. I did not go, I'm healed, brain, I'm healed, because I had to be a different version of me. But if the focus was every day I'm getting better, my brain filtered in more of getting better. If I said, oh, this is hard, my brain showed me all the reasons why it was hard. If I went, okay, I can do this. I'm going to go back to the story of Bethany Hamilton. My brain said, if she can surf without an arm, I can certainly lift a spoon. But it's, again, I asked my brain to filter it for me. Just like the invisible gorilla. I'm not noticing the invisible gorilla coming out and pounding on his chest. I'm noticing how many times the ball is passed because that's what I'm looking for. Everybody's brain is going to work like that. The reticular activating system is exactly how you filter. So what do you want to filter in? Happiness and joy? Or do you want to filter in what's painful? That's your choice. There is everything in the world. All you see is all that there is. You put your definitions on it. Just like the two travelers, they both walked the same path in the forest. Their experience was completely different. Why? Because they put their own definitions on it. Really, everything that happens is neutral. You choose whether it's good or bad. Two people can see things completely different. That's how you filter your information. What are you filtering in and out? Do you want to filter good? Do you want to filter bad? You actually have the control of your brain. While you cannot control all the information happening, again, that what you see is all that there is. Whether it be good or bad, it exists. You choose what definition you want to put on it, what connection your brain wants to make, and how you filter that. So I think that when you're healing, growing, changing, how do you sort of hack the brain? Understand that the biggest step that there is what are you filtering? There is so much that you cannot see, process, or even think about. But if you want to expand, grow, heal, whatever your goal is, you kind of start with choosing that filter in your brain. For me, I choose to filter what I'm good at. It helps me by having the confidence to go about my life going, I can do hard things. I've done this. I trained the filter in my brain. It was training. Okay, this was not easy. Again, remember my situation, life or death. But I think that training myself to say, every day I'm getting better, training myself to be grateful for my life, training myself to be grateful that I could only hit the golf ball 25 yards instead of 200. Okay, I trained myself to be grateful for those things. Was it something I started at? No. If you got up and told a professional golfer, I hit the golf ball 25 yards, do you think he would be proud of you? Probably not. He would look at you like, yeah, okay. But I think that that's it. You train yourself to be through those. So some of the things we'll talk about in this journey, gratitude, consistency, compounding effect, they all work together, but they are all stopped by the filter. Think about like the air filter in your car. If it gets plugged up with gunk and junk, you don't get good clean air circulating, right? So you might have to replace your filter. Well, maybe you can't replace the filter in your brain. That might be a little hard to do, but you can train it. You can teach it what to look for. You can teach it to look for the white shirts passing the ball. You can teach it to look for the invisible gorilla. You can teach it to look for the gratitude. You can teach it to look for the bad. You can tell it, more of this. I want more of this. It will give you more of what there is. The hardest part, I think, from a human level is what we've learned is to understand that everything is neutral. You put the definition on it. You are the observer of your life. You actually control what you filter in. This is the only part you have control of. When you have a stroke, you lose control. You have no control of your body. You have no control of your health. There is even a time when you don't even have control of whether you can go to the bathroom or drive a car. Simple things. All your freedoms are taken away. All your independence is taken away. And everybody gives you this positive thing. Most people aren't like, oh, that sucks. They're like, oh, Can I help you? What can I do? But the only thing you can control is helping yourself. You can help yourself by determining what you want to filter. How do I want to let things in? What am I comfortable doing? And you can think about it from those tasks we talked about before, shrinking the task, making it easy on your brain. The reticular activating system is actually the number one way that you do that. I think a lot about how am I going to filter things? What do I think of that? What you see is all that there is. It's my definitions. I get to control that. I can observe my life and ask, oh, how do I feel about that? What's happening? This happened. I mean, imagine being on your back in a hospital bed. You used to be a top-notch control freak salesperson running all over the world in control of your life to you're in a hospital bed and you can't even go to the bathroom by yourself. That's a complete loss of control. You're sitting there in a hospital bed. When you're healing from a brain injury, you can't look at a TV. You can't look at your phone. You can't read. The only way to let the brain heal is to be in a dimly lit room, which is kind of hard to do in a hospital, and be left alone to just let the brain heal. And try doing that in a hospital room where all you hear is beep, beep. Oh, yeah, and by the way, every hour they come in to wake you up for something. Give your blood, run this, test that, but yeah, please let your brain heal. So in that time, you get to get very real with yourself and your thoughts. At the time, I didn't understand the science between the reticular activating system. I didn't understand why. I just knew somehow instinctively inside me that this wasn't all that there is. My life was not ending here. That will to live, that fire came inside of me before I understood the science. It came in and it pushed me to live, to go and say, my story doesn't end here. A lot of the stuff I learned wasn't until about 3 months after the stroke was over. That was where the nerding out on the brain really kicked in. I got a chance to have conversations with specialists. I had a chance to talk to neurologists, which, by the way, do not talk human languages. Most of them could use understand people don't understand the brain the way you do. But it was very hard to absorb. And they had a different way of explaining it, but it was how you notice what you filter in and out. You get the choice of that. The subconscious brain processes so much information, it would send the conscious mind into complete and utter overwhelm. I think your head would explode, but I can't prove that. But I think if you learn to filter in what you want and tell your brain, again, cognitive ease or strain, this is good. I want more of this. Neuroplasticity. I want to wire my brain for more of this. The reticular activating system is the filter. It's kind of like your brain's GPS. I want to go here. It will show you all the directions to get there. Maybe not all at once. Maybe you got to go step by step. But over time, you train that sucker to tell you where you want to go. My GPS gets me in places I want to go. I chose that I wanted to be grateful for living. I chose abundance as a mindset. I chose that I wanted freedom to live my life and be who I wanted to be. And there were some things I had to untrain. I had to untrain living my life external. I had to untrain caring what people thought, caring if I made a mistake, understanding that if I fell on my face, I would be okay. I could pick myself up. I had been through harder things. But you can train the things in your brain, it filters, to unfilter them. Now, I might still, when somebody says something that's hurtful to me, I might still feel bad about that. But my brain has learned from this RAS to filter it. Okay, that's not ideal, but the new pathway in the brain is we acknowledge that hurt our feelings. I acknowledge it hurt me, but I am not going to let it be a weight I carry with me. That is not something that needs to be part of my filter. Yes, this thing happened. Yes, it's not ideal, but I have trained the filter to say, we are not going to look for more evidence that there are things that are going to hurt our feelings. I'm going to look for more evidence that things are going to make me feel good about myself and feel confident. So I cannot choose that bad and good things come in. I can choose the definition I put on them, and the RAS is actually my friend. It will go find me more evidence of what I want, good or bad. So if I want to make more money, it will help me make more money because I will look for more opportunities to make more money. If I want to look for more opportunities to feel good about myself, it will filter in more and more of that. If I don't, it will filter out more and more of that. It will filter in the things that make me feel bad about myself and feel heavy and weigh me down. Or I can look for things that feel better. There's something called the halo effect, usually described as when you meet somebody and they're good looking or they do something smart, you like them more and put this halo around them that sort of everything they do is wonderful because their first impression was wonderful. Well, you can control your own halo too. You can control how you show up in a room or what evidence you're filtering in. So for example, I'm getting better every day, created a halo effect in my life that I found more evidence I was getting better. The halo effect should be used for other things. It's really about the halo you surround someone with. But that same effect applied to my healing. I gained confidence and belief in myself, and that halo got bigger and bigger while I was filtering in information and experiences to show me that I was getting better. Like, for example, putting the walker 10 feet in front of me and challenging myself to walk 10 feet to a walker. I couldn't walk across the room, but maybe 10 feet I could do. 3 steps, okay. So a 5-minute practice we're going to ask you to start now, and we'll check back in a couple of weeks. But just find 5 minutes a day where you're aware. What are you aware of? Are you in a negative space where you're only looking for negative? Are you in a positive space where you're only looking for positive? I look at things like expansive or constrictive. So for me, I move towards things that are expansive. Maybe you've heard of things where they say like green lights or expand into this or follow the good news, right? You look for those. Follow the yellow brick road, right? The Wizard of Oz. But I look for things to be expansive. So to me, that's like walking out of the house. The sun hits my skin. It's a warm and sunny day. It's inviting. I want to walk into the yard. I want to feel more of that. It feels good. I'm going to expand to it. If it feels constrictive, might feel like I'm walking into a cold, uninviting room. It might feel, ooh, cold. I don't like that. I want to put a jacket on. It's not warm and inviting. It doesn't feel good. Everything in my body and brain and my gut is going, no. In those situations, I've trained the RAS in me to listen to them. Okay, this feels warm and inviting. More of that. This feels cold and constrictive. Less of that. And it doesn't mean that those things don't happen, good or bad. It's my definitions on them and training my brain to look for more of that. This podcast came about that way. I did not set out one day and say, yay, I'm going to host a podcast. I said in my filter, hey, brain, I'm looking for ways to share my story and help others because I didn't know any of the stuff I know now. Had I have known it then, Jenna 1.0 would not have had a stroke. She would have known better. Jenna 2.0 goes, okay, we're not doing that again. But it's skills that I trained. And so if I can help anyone, that's the point of this. And I think it was training that filter in my brain. I did not know that the how was going to be this podcast. I did not know this is how my story was going to come out. If you had asked me before this, it had a totally different picture. But I trained the filter in my brain. This is what expansive looks like. This is what I'm going to go with. I'm not going to worry about how in the details. I'm just going to follow what feels warm and inviting and do a lot more of that. Every one of us is going to be a little different, but you can filter in what you want that will compound you in the direction that you want to go. You can sort of forget the how, This is how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to listen to myself. I am going to filter in things. I am going to tell my brain how to filter what I want, good or bad. That is your choice. That is your definition. But you can train the RAS. You can go find the invisible gorillas that you've been shutting out your whole life because you were thinking one way. You can choose that I'm going to go through the path and I'm going to find it wonderful and magical, or I'm going to find it horrible and not want to do it. Those are your choices. Those are your definitions. There is a concept of duality, that everything has a negative and a positive side. You filter that stuff in. You decide for yourself what that is. And the simplest way to do it is by being aware. Notice it. We'll spend some time later on talking about just notice what you're noticing. Put your definitions on it. Figure it out. Oh, this is how I feel about that. That's not ideal. I'm an adult. I live in society. Sometimes there are things that are not ideal. It is not ideal for me when the jerk on the road cuts me off with no warning. It is not joyful for me when I get a bill in the mail. But these are real life responsibilities. I have filtered in whether it is the end of the world or just going, hey, that's not ideal. I don't like that. Some things I have to be responsible with. Some things I can leave over there and just move on from. But training the filter in your brain will help you look for that. Another great story about the filter in the brain is the story of the lucky people. So they grabbed 100 people and said, hey, how do you think? Half of them said lucky, half of them not. So they gave them all a newspaper and said, count the pictures in the newspaper. If you're accurate, you win $250. So these people counted the pictures. Well, the group that identified themselves as lucky finished faster with 100% accuracy. The group that felt unlucky did the same thing. They were probably 90% accurate and they finished in twice the amount of time. Here's the kicker. People were not lucky or more lucky. The ones who identified them as lucky saw in the paper that maybe 3 or 4 pages in said, stop counting, there's 43 pictures. All the lucky people saw it. All the unlucky people missed that big, bright ad to tell them that. So here's proof of the filter. If you see yourself as lucky, the reason you're more lucky is you just notice more opportunities to be lucky. For those who saw themselves as unlucky, they just missed it. What does this really mean? You control the filter in your brain. You control the RAS. You determine what it's looking for. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is start today and find 5 minutes in your day. I don't care if the 5 minutes is in the shower, alone in your car, in the kitchen while nobody's awake, before you go to bed, whatever it is. Find that 5 minutes, make an appointment with yourself that is 5 minutes you are going to spend being aware. What are you going to be aware of? What you like and what you don't. During these 5 minutes, you only have 3 rules. No phone, no other frequencies, so no other humans, TVs, activities, etc. No phone, no frequencies, just observe. In these 5 minutes, you are going to observe your thoughts. You will hear me say things like, you are the observer of your life. What does that mean? Well, it's a Buddhist concept, really, that to be the observer, to be neutral, like your brain. It doesn't know whether things are good or bad. You're the one putting those definitions on. So be the observer of your life. In those 5 minutes, observe. I'm going to try to talk to you about how I do it because meditation was painful for me. Remember, Jenna is impatient and drives a slow 80. You want me to slow down? What is that? Slowing down is a big one, but I had the hardest time meditating and breathing. I've practiced something called pranayama for over a year since the stroke. And really, what is that? It's about the energetic body. It's very breath oriented. It's about breathing. When I first started doing this, it was very painful. I couldn't slow down. And then somewhere about halfway through, the girl that would come and do it with me, I would literally fall asleep. At one point, I remember I was snoring during it. But what do I mean about being the observer? when I learned how to meditate at the very beginning, I would get so frustrated that I wasn't at the end. I couldn't be like all the other meditators out there and living in complete peace and nirvana. That was too hard. My mind would not slow down long enough to let a thought in. So when I learned about becoming the observer, that made sense to me. It took off all the pressure to be good at meditation, to learn how to be like somebody who'd been meditating for years. It became very simple. All I had to do was observe. So what did that look like? For example, I would sit down. I had my own 4 or 5 breaths start that I did. Remember, cue, routine, reward. And the routine for me was just to observe my thoughts. A thought would come in. Hey, so-and-so didn't like you today. That didn't go over well. And I would go, interesting. That's a thought. And how do I feel about that? And secret me would come out and say how I felt. And then at the end of my 5-minute start, I would give myself a reward. What was my reward? Well, my reward was hanging out with my dog, but you can find your own. The whole point was to reward myself for that uninterrupted 5 minutes of just being the observer of my own life. So your 5-minute practice, remember, you have 3 rules. No phone, no other frequency, and just observe. Now, I'm not saying in 5 minutes you're going to go fix your life. I would like it to be that simple, but it's really not. But if you find 5 minutes today and you make an appointment for the next week for giving yourself 5 minutes of awareness, what am I aware of? How do I feel about that? What definition am I putting on that? Let's not try to go too far. Let's go one driveway at a time. I'm not asking you to change life. I'm just saying make an appointment for yourself, 5 minutes, and be aware of what you're feeling. That is step 1 to training the RAS in your brain. Remember, until next time, karma's real, your energy is contagious. Check your vibes.
Just call